One of the key benefits of a blind pull lead stream is your ability as an admin to keep control of the contacts in your admin account until your reps are ready, willing, and actually make a phone call to those contacts. However, sometimes you don't necessarily want to limit them from having access to the contacts until they make a phone call. You just want to limit their access until they're ready to start working those contacts. And maybe you have a lot of records across multiple different states or regions, and you don't want to divide all that data up. You just want to make it into one big pool and let the reps choose which records they want to pull from the database, from the list, and take control over, take ownership of. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how you can take advantage of the Preview Pull LeadStream concept to allow your reps to pick and choose which leads or which contacts they pull from the lead stream. So let's run a scenario here. Let's think about this. So let's say you are running an insurance agency and you have agents that are licensed across multiple states. But every agent is licensed in different states. And so they need to have a little bit of control over which records they actually work. They need to know just a little bit of information, at least the state. And so that's the kind of scenario that we're going to be working through today on this training, is creating a Preview Pull style lead stream that allows your reps to pick and choose certain records to pull out of the lead stream and take ownership of. So we're going to go over to the lead stream settings. From the contact manager, we go to the gear in the upper right, click on lead stream, and we're going to create a new lead stream. I'm going to enable this one, and I'm going to call this Preview Pull. I'm going to give it a description, and then I'm going to choose blind/preview pull as the type. You'll notice that when I choose blind/preview pull, I have the option to choose a dialer preset. I'm going to go ahead and choose one. Doesn't really matter which one I choose here because it's not going to actually affect their calling, because we're not going to set them up as blind pull. We're going to set them up as preview pull. The next option is the distribution folder. What folder in the admin account is going to contain the leads, the contacts that we're going to make available to our team? So I'm going to click on create a new folder. I'm going to name this one Preview Pull. Click OK. And for the receiving folder, I'm going to go ahead and create a new receiving folder called Preview Pull RCV. Hit OK. I'm going to lock that in. I can lock this in or leave it unlocked. It really just depends on how structured I want to make the calling process that my team follows once they've claimed a lead, once they've taken a lead out of the pool. I'm going to leave this set to no because I'm going to talk you through some options here. But if you were going to create a very systematic process for them to follow with saved searches that you create at the admin level and share to the team, you'd probably want to lock this in. But again, I'm going to set this to no and give them a little bit of control over this if they want to. The next option is the recycle folder. This is totally up to you. When it comes to a preview pull, you may or may not care about recycling the leads, right? Once somebody takes a lead from the pool, you might just say, you know what, that's yours, keep it, do what you can with it. I'm not going to take it back and try to deliver it to somebody else. Or you could recycle it. You could say, hey, if you haven't worked this lead in X amount of time, I want to take it back and let somebody else take a crack at it. So let me talk to you about that option. I'm going to go ahead and set Preview Pull as the recycle folder, which means it's going to recycle back into itself. So if I claim a lead and the system determines that it needs to get recycled, it's just going to go back into the pool. So either myself or somebody else could claim it again. Now, when it comes to a preview pull, I would recommend having recycle times of at least 24 hours. We want to give the rep that's taking that lead at least a day to work that lead. But in most cases, I would say you want to be around 7 days or 14 days. Give them a significant amount of time to actually work that lead. So in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and set it to 14 days. So once somebody claims that lead, they have it for 14 days. Another thing that we may want to consider is whether or not that recycle time will reset if and when they call the lead. This can be really helpful, right? So if I've claimed a lead, I've pulled a lead from the pool, and I'm actively working it, then I might want to continually have that recycle time resetting every time I call that lead. In which case, I could potentially adjust my recycle time down to a lower time, like 5 days. If a lead that's been pulled from the pool sits for 5 days without receiving a phone call, boom, I want to take it back and make it available to somebody else. Or maybe 3 days, whatever that might be. But we need to take into consideration what process do we want the reps to follow whenever a lead is distributed to them, whenever they take a lead from the pool. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 5 at this point. I'm not going to worry about sorting by a custom field because, again, this doesn't matter. They're going to be able to sort their leads any way they want because they're going to take ownership of those leads in this specific lead stream. I could hide the total number of leads, but I'm not going to worry about that on this one. Let's go to next and add recipients. I'm going to go ahead and add all of my team members. Again, I can select all, I can select one, I can select some. It's up to me how I want to do that, right? I can choose one, I can hold down Control and choose an additional one, or I can select the top one, hold Shift, and select all in between. This time, however, before I add these recipients, I'm not going to worry about any limits, but I am going to change the pull type to Preview. Once I set it to Preview, you'll notice that I actually have no option to choose a dialer preset because, again, dialer presets are not relevant in a Preview Pull situation because the reps are taking control or ownership of those records, and they will choose the settings for every dial session. So we don't need to worry about that for them in this particular case. So I'm going to go ahead and add the recipients. Now we've got them added. And I will point this out. You can actually mix and match. You can have some people that are configured as Preview Pull in a lead stream and some that are configured as a blind pull in the same lead stream, the same blind/Preview Pull type. Not going to do that in this particular case, but I did want to point it out that with this specific style, you can mix and match. So, all right, so here we are. We've got them added. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some contacts in here. So let's go to our contact manager. Let's go to import. Let's choose a file. And now we need to map our data. Now, in this particular case, I want to make sure that I've got name, phone number, address. I do have address information being mapped, so I think we're good here. I could map priority, but again, that doesn't affect the lead stream and how it's distributed, but it could help my reps when they're sorting their data in their contact manager. Once I've mapped everything, I'm going to click Next. Now I need to choose the folder. I'm going to choose my Preview Pull folder. And I always recommend when you're importing data or even posting data through the API that you add a lead source to track the effectiveness of any specific record. So these are going to be my Preview Pull contacts. Obviously, that's not an appropriate name in most cases. You would want to name it after the source of where you actually got the leads. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. Again, no duplicate matching because I know these phone numbers are all duplicates. These emails are all duplicates because it's the same file. I just keep importing. Now let's go ahead and click Yes, Import. The system will now process that file and put those contacts into my, my distribution folder, my Preview Pull distribution folder. I can also reorder these folders to clean this up a little bit. I can go down here and say, you know, I got my nurture calls. I want to reorder that one. I got my Preview Pull. Let's reorder that one. Okay, we got that cleaned up a little bit. That makes my contact manager look a little bit more nice, right? I can expand and contract some of these. Now, as an individual rep, or as an admin. This time I'm actually going to do this from the rep side of things. I'm going to log in as Heather. When I'm logged in as a user, I can go to leads, and here as a user, I'm going to close that little window. I can see all the lead streams that I've been assigned to. I can reorder these accordingly. But here's my preview pull. You can see I have the ability to change the receiving folder. But what's different about this lead stream is I don't begin the dial session from here. This is where I choose which leads I want to take ownership of. So let's say, for example, I'm an insurance agent that is licensed in California and Arizona. So I can come through here and I can see, oh, here's a California lead. I'm going to claim that. And so I see the city and state. Here is in Arizona. I'm going to claim that. California, 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 Arizona. Right, so I can go through and I can just claim the specific leads that I want to pull from the pool. Now, limits might come in handy with this specific type of lead stream. If you've got a lot of fresh data coming in here and you want to limit how much any one agent can pull from the pool, it might make sense to put a daily lead limit on there. Let me actually show you what that's going to look like. Let's return back to the admin account. Let's go back to our lead stream settings. Let's go to our preview pull. Let's edit our users. Let's edit Heather and let's put some daily limits on there. Let's say she can pull 10. I want you to see what that's going to look like. So I'm going to go back to the team, log in as Heather, go back to our leads, go to our preview pull, and you'll see, even though I claimed those leads before the limit had been set on the user, this specific user, you'll see that those 7 leads that I claimed are actually counting towards today's daily lead limit. So I'm 7 of 10. I can actually claim 3 more. So let's say, again, we're looking at California. Let's go to another page. We've got Arizona here, California. Oh, I just reached my limit. I can't get any more. But where did those leads go, right? So I just claimed some leads. Where did they go? They went to the receiving folder. So if I jump over to contacts and I go to the preview pull receiving folder, I'll see those 10 contacts that I just claimed are now in this specific folder. And I could begin a dial session here. But we're not going to stop there. We want to make sure that we have a process that our team can follow to efficiently and effectively work these leads, right? The lead stream gets them the leads, but we don't want to just give them the leads. We want to make sure that they're successful with the leads. Let's go back to the admin account. And as an admin, I would want to do as much of this as possible at the admin level. So that way I know that all of my team members are doing the same thing. They have a nice consistent process that they're following, but it's up to you if you want to let them kind of build out their own process or not. So in this particular case, I'm going to do it at the admin level. So I'm going to create a new series of saved searches, right? They just took over the leads. When they claim a lead, let's make sure that they work those appropriately. So we're going to do it based off that receiving folder, right? Our preview pull receiving folder. Anytime they claim a lead, it's going to go into that preview pull receiving folder. And then we just got to decide what is this process going to be like. So the first thing we do is we look at any contact that's in that folder that's never been called. You've never been called, so their total calls is 0. We're going to create a saved search for this called Preview Pull Call 1. Click on search. That creates our saved search. And that's just the first phone call. We need to consider any additional phone calls, right? So we might want to look at that preview pull folder, that receiving folder, where those leads are going. For any contacts that are in there that, let's keep it simple. They haven't been called. Last call was before 2 days ago. We don't care how many times they've been called. We just want to keep calling them every couple days. So this would be additional calls. right? So we create that. And again, this training is not to go into depth on the advanced search feature in the system. There is some training that goes in deep on the advanced search and saved searches. Highly recommend that you watch that. But now that we've created those couple saved searches, let's go and manage those and make sure those are shared with the team. Why do we want to share them? That way each team member doesn't have to create their own. So now that they're shared, if we log in as Heather in this particular case, we will see those same saved searches. Heather will have the ability to pin those. Once they're pinned, if we go back to contacts, we'll see them listed here. If I go to Preview Pull Call 1, I will see the 10 contacts that I claimed today ready to go. I can then select and begin a dial session. Once I call these contacts, any contacts that I disposition into a specific folder will get moved into that specific folder. Any contacts that I disposition, like no answer, voicemail, busy signal, where they don't get moved, they will pop up in my Preview Pull additional calls save search in a couple days, and we'll just keep building that particular pool of data for me, the one individual that's logged in, right? So each person can have their data that they're in charge of. So if we had put recycle time on here, then we'll see when that's going to expire at the contact level. So here you can see 4 days, 23 hours, 53 minutes, and 8 seconds. If I were to call this contact, you'll see I get to choose all of my settings when setting up this dial session because I own the contacts. Let's go ahead and start dialing. And I'll click no answer. That was the only call that I made, right? That was the only contact that I'd selected. So that session ends. But watch what happens when I refresh. That recycle time reset. So every time I call this contact, that recycle time is going to refresh. So as long as I'm working these leads consistently, I will maintain ownership of them. The moment I stop working them consistently, those contacts are going to get recycled, and I'll have to go claim some more. So anyway, that is a quick little overview. Well, define quick, right? That is a quick little overview of the Preview Pull style lead stream. Designed to help you give your team a little bit more control over the leads that they pull from the pool and take ownership of. It really just depends on how your organization works. This is just one way to give your team a little bit more control before they actually start making calls. But we want to give them the control to decide who they call, when they call them, and that whole dialing process. So anyway, thank you for taking a moment to watch this video. I hope this helps you and your organization get more done in less time using the power of PhoneBurner. Thanks again, and happy dialing.